Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Carrow Road. Under the lights, few things better, isn't there, in football than a midweek game? Feels almost championship-like. Norwich City take on Aston Villa this evening at Carrow Road. There you can see it on Pad's laptop. Team news dropping in about 3 minutes or so. Pad, I'm going to throw over to you first and foremost because we're led to believe there's a few more issues in the Norwich City camp. Injuries, of course, that we're kind of aware of, and knocks and whatnot, but also perhaps some further COVID positive cases, and also a few more who may be self-isolating. So just kind of bring us up to date with where we are.
Yeah, just that, Connor. Yeah, I think we'll obviously get confirmation shortly. Excuse me. But that is the information we've been given by inside the club. So we await now the scale of that, the scale of the obviously Christoph Jolis we knew about in the last couple of days. Dean Smith confirming that he's at home self-isolating. But sadly, it doesn't appear it's limited to Christoph Jolis, and we'll get a very clear indication how severe it is. But I don't think it's going to be the best of news from what we can gather, judging by the tone of the comments and how they were delivered. But let's just wait and see. But ultimately, if there are players unavailable tonight, then, you know, as the old cliche goes, others will come in, and as Jacob Sorensen, no less, showed here at the weekend, you know, take your opportunity. But it's far from ideal preparation. And ultimately, is it a huge surprise given Norwich have played Tottenham? Huge number of cases, postponed games. Then they played Manchester United. Reportedly, a number of cases postponed their game tonight against Brentford. And Norwich have played essentially those two teams in between. So given as we're led to believe, the transmissibility of this latest variant, it's probably not a huge surprise. So we will find out very, very shortly. But not good news, mate, no.
Yeah, led to believe that there'll be a few youth players or under 23 players on the bench tonight. We obviously saw John Tompkinson on the bench on Saturday. I wouldn't be surprised if he was there, possibly a couple of others as well. We are about a minute or so away from that team news. I'm still expecting Norwich City's team to look relatively competitive for this level. We'll see how many changes have been made from Saturday's game in just a moment or so. But just to reiterate, understand there are a few more COVID issues in the Norwich City camp ahead of this game. Obviously, we'll hear from Dean Smith after the game. You'll be speaking to him, Pad, so you can bring us up to date. And we should, hopefully, have the team news very, very shortly. If we're just waiting now, but it should be a minute or so away. Just trying to fill a bit of time, essentially. But
What I would say, Connor, just to cut across you there, the club have put out pictures of Ben Gibson and Kenny McLean. So if we're piecing together the jigsaw, the fact that they've took pictures of those two here and on the pitch pre-match would indicate that certainly Gibson, that looks positive news because he was a doubt in terms of fitness, wasn't he? Yeah,
right. Here we go. Here is the Norwich City team news. It looks a bit like this: Tim Krul in goal, Aarons, Kabak, Ben Gibson, and Williams at the back four. Sorensen comes in at defensive midfield with Billy Gilmore and Kenny McLean in the midfield too. Poheta on the right. Todd Cantwell comes in on the left with Timu Pukki up front. So that means Josh Sargent, Dimitris Yunidis, Rupp and Hanley will drop out. Although Hanley didn't play on Saturday, did he? I'm reading the club's tweet, so.
Sargent not even on the bench, Connor. So I think straight away you have to feel that he's one of the potential COVID-affected players.
Yeah, I'll just read you the bench as well. Angus Gunn, Sam Byram, Jonathan Tompkinson, as we teed up. Bali Mumba, Dimitris Yunidis. So that's 4 defenders on the bench for Norwich City. John Rowe, Adam Ida, Kieran Dow, and Tom Dixon-Peters. So as we suspected, 3 youth players and a few more players missing out as well. I'm just trying to work out who else.
No Lees Malou, Connor.
Correct. And from what we can gather, there's a couple more positives in the camp and a few more displaying symptoms, but we'll try and get that confirmed as and when we can. But Pad, let's throw it over to you.
No Lucas Rupp as well, Connor. No Lucas Rupp.
So Rupp, Lace Malou, Sargent. I'm trying to think of anyone else off the top of my head who missed. Yeah, Hanley obviously with the shoulder injury. Omar Bamadeli missing out with that back issue. Ben Gibson comes back in. We'll have to contrast and compare with the bench, but Pad, throw to you. I mean, when you look at that starting 11, I mean, it probably with maybe a couple of players that we wouldn't naturally expect to be in there, but it just purely looking at starting 11, probably as a Premier League starting 11 doesn't look too bad.
Not too bad, Connor. Yeah, I'm looking at the pitch graphic, and really, you know, Rupp comes out. Okay, he was decent on Saturday. Sorensen going in, knowing his established position, certainly in his view. So does that materially weaken Norwich? Not certainly if we get a Sorensen of Manchester United levels. So McLean and Gilmore, they played Saturday. Williams comes in for the Yanulis, who is on the bench. So that I don't think weakens Norwich necessarily. Gibson, an established centre-back, coming back in alongside Kabak, who was excellent against Manchester United. No Hanley, no Omar Daly, no Zimbo, but I wouldn't say necessarily that's a dramatically weakened back four. And then top end of the pitch where you've got the main man there and Cantwell coming back in, I don't think will upset quite a few Norwich fans in terms of if his head's right, what he can offer in terms of his creativity. And Poeta was decent the other day. So, yeah, I think my fears probably were that it would have been slightly more decimated than that. But as it's turned out, not ideal, obviously, to be without Lee Malou, without Rupp or without Sargent. But in the grand scheme of things, probably could have been a lot worse, I think.
Yep, the big news in terms of the Aston Villa team news, Emi Buendia starts for them tonight. So they line up with Martinez in goal, Cash, Konza, Mings and Target, the back four. McGinn, Douglas Luiz and Jacob Ramsey, their midfield three. Emi Buendia, Ollie Watkins and Ashley Young, the front three. And their subs bench, which I can bring to you here, is Philip Marshall, Axel Twanzebe, Trezeguet, Danny Ings on the bench for Villa tonight. Courtney House, Jaden Philogene, oh, Jesus. Bidace, we're going to go with that. Carney Chukwuenga, who I believe his brother has been linked with Norwich on a few occasions. Cameron Archer and Tim Ingro Bunham as well. So that's the Aston Villa team. So, Pads, away from the COVID issues, there's obviously probably a contentious debate around that left back position, which I know you guys spoke about on the Monday Night Club podcast, which is obviously exclusive to our app subscribers. You can check that out by downloading the app, of course. Dimitris Giannoulis dropped to the bench, Brandon Williams back in. First and foremost, is that fair? I suppose is the question I'm going to ask you after his performance on Saturday. But also, what does it say maybe about how Dean Smith views the battle between the two?
Well, you're right. We did get into it in some depth, and my mind kept coming back to Dean Smith's comments about, I've said to Brandon, you're not looking like a lone player in terms of you've bought in completely to what we need from you here. That, his character as well as ability is right there for Dean Smith. And as a result, it did feel, we all actually plumped for who we'd go for. And I think me, Dave and Adam all felt it would be this, that he'd restore Brandon to the lineup. Not a reflection on Dimitris, but ultimately Brandon came out of the side against United through nothing other than he's ineligible against parent club. His performance levels, certainly since Smith arrived, I think warrant his inclusion again tonight because he does offer you that drive and that, which to a Dean Smith side is very important. That ability collectively, high energy, high tempo, pressing and trying to play the game in the opposition's half, and Williams offers all of that. So not a huge surprise for me, but with no Sargent, can Yanulis now come in and potentially maybe do a job higher up the pitch on the left-hand side if Cantwell, for whatever reason, isn't going to last the pace. So, bit harsh on Demi because there was nothing in his performance levels against United that would have merited him coming out of the side, I think. But ultimately, as Dean Smith said yesterday, a welcome selection headache because he's got two operators who he probably feels he could go to either of them and they wouldn't let him down. So, Brandon Williams has got the shirt. It's up to Brandon Williams to keep it now by the level of his performance starting again tonight.
Yeah, Aston Villa manager Steven Gerrard just going through his pre-match duties down below us. We've seen Dean Smith out here just a moment or so ago speaking to the TV cameras. Of course, this is televised this evening, this fixture. It's definitely a big one for Norwich City. Emi Buendia obviously returns in the starting lineup, which we've spoken a lot about. But Dean Smith was asked, wasn't he, in terms of how he viewed this fixture. Obviously, a month or so ago, he was Aston Villa's head coach. He's now at Norwich City. And in terms of preparation, that's quite ideal for him, isn't it? If anyone is going to know anything about this current crop of Aston Villa players and their substitutes, it's going to be him, because if he didn't bring the majority to the club, he at least worked with them for a prolonged period of time. So in terms of preparation, we mentioned that perhaps Norwich's situation isn't particularly ideal, but maybe they get an advantage out of that side of things.
Well, he did. He said, I think to be accurate, he actually said, Connor, bar John McGinn, he pretty much signed all of those players who are currently available to Steven Gerrard. And John McGinn is a player he worked with very much and very much was a big fan of John McGinn. So Yeah, he did tongue in cheek say he knows their strengths and weaknesses, but maybe they know his as well. So maybe it'll even itself out. But there's no doubt. Okay, it's a new manager who maybe is trying to impart difference in tweaks in terms of his ideas and the way they set up. But fundamentally, it's the same group of players. And yeah, there shouldn't be any surprises if you're Dean Smith and Craig Shakespeare. And it's just one of those more fascinating strands to this fixture tonight. And we've not really even got into the Emi Buendia situation yet. But there's so many subplots. But ultimately, as Dean Smith said, whether it was Villa tonight with all his connections, whether it was Liverpool or a Man City, ultimately, it doesn't really matter. Norwich, in the position they're in the table, with the points they've got on the board, they need a win here tonight. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's been in the game long enough, as he likes to keep telling us, 34 years of professional, that he will park any sort of sentimentality and emotional attachment to Villa for the duration of this game. He will be desperate to put one over on Villa and not. I don't get the sense from anything in terms of how it ended for him there and any revenge mission. This is all about Norwich for him, I think.
Yeah, just from the Villa side, Morgan Sanson is one of them missing with COVID. Jed Steer as well, of course, formerly of this parish, not on the bench either. So there were reports that there have been a couple of confirmed COVID cases in the camp. It looks likely that perhaps those are the two for Aston Villa. But yeah, we'll have a proper look and try and confirm everything once we're off. Before we come to Buendia, Pad, and obviously the inevitable talk around him and what he will do, what reception he'll get tonight, how he'll view this fixture. Jacob Sorensen, first and foremost, stepped into that centre-back role on Saturday, did terrifically well, marshalling Cristiano Ronaldo and Marcus Rashford. He steps into perhaps the position he looks at as being his more favoured this evening, a massive opportunity for a player that Dean Smith raved about after the game on Saturday.
Sorry, Connor, my eye was caught by Norwich's header. Com's just coming up the stairs there. I might actually break off and just have a word if you fill for a bit.
Yeah, no problem. I'll talk about Jacob Sorensen, a big opportunity for him this evening, who, of course, does start. I believe this is his first ever Premier League start. Made his debut, obviously, against Spurs in the final minutes. Had a bigger cameo against Manchester United last weekend at centre-back, out of position, in his more favoured position. And now starts in defensive midfield this evening, obviously with Billy Gilmore and Kenny McLean alongside him. So a really good opportunity. Pad is, I can just see out of the corner of my eye, getting all the confirmation of all of the relevant team news strands. So we'll hold on and we'll fill until he has those to bring you. Emi Buendia, I suppose, the other talking point. He returns to Carrow Road. So obviously first time since his summer transfer, 33 million front with a 38 million probably. Maybe nearer to closer to 40 eventually. A big opportunity. We're interested to see what reception he gets in these stands this evening. Player of the Year last season, was so influential in terms of what Norwich City did on their run to the Championship title under Daniel Farke last season. And yeah, Norwich will be hoping to silence him, to frustrate him, and to ensure that his return to Carrow Road isn't a particularly fond one this evening. So that's another one to watch out, with another chance as well for Premishav Poeta, who obviously started on Saturday, started on the right-hand side. It was a hard-working shift. My colleague Dave Freezer did the player watch on him, analysed him in detail. You can, again, check that out at the Pinken app. Some really good stuff in there. He looked pretty shot after that, and looks like that Paddy is going to come back in and is probably going to be able to tell us a little bit of an update on all of those relevant team news strands. So I'll pass over to you.
Yes, mate. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, no, straight from the horse's mouth. Yeah, those three we mentioned: Rob, Melise Malou, and Sargent. COVID related. Not sure if one or all three have tested positive, but COVID related absences. So we can read into that what we want. And there's one or two others in the group who are not showing symptoms because there's one or two involved tonight on the bench, but maybe feeling a little bit under the weather. But interestingly, it looks like the club maybe did seek some guidance from the Premier League in terms of, could this fixture go ahead? And the fact that we're all sat here and we're discussing two sets of teams about to kick off, you can read between the lines maybe what the feedback was from the Premier League. So I think certainly Norwich felt they needed to seek some guidance because obviously United's game has gone. Tottenham had their weekend game called off. Now, whether that is because I've not looked into it in any great depth, whether there's a certain threshold of cases that you have to show to the Premier League in order to get a game postponed, I don't know. But ultimately, what we do know 100%, Christos Zolis self-isolating, and there is another case, a separate to Zolis, but I haven't been given the identity of that, but I think it's safe to assume, given the 3 missing who would be involved tonight, that it's probably from one of those 3 unavailable players. And hopefully Dean Smith will give us a further update after the game. Obviously, there is client confidentiality in terms of players and testing positive for the virus. But yeah, interesting that there's 1 or 2 other players exhibiting some symptoms, but not to the extent where they couldn't be involved tonight. But in that context, Norwich had spoken to the Premier League just to seek clarification, was the wording that's just been given to me. So not necessarily asking for a cancellation, but certainly just seeking maybe what the process is in that area. So as we said, not a great situation really for Dean Smith to be going into a game with all that in the background, but it is what it is, and by no manner of means are Norwich the only club dealing with this. So, that's where we are at the minute, and ultimately I look at that 11 and there's enough quality in there for me from Norwich's perspective to go and get a result tonight. So let's just hope there hasn't been too much disruption, but clearly not an ideal preparation. But then again, wasn't ideal preparation for very many reasons going into Saturday's game, and look at the performance they turned in. So, you have to hope that, maybe even on one level it can galvanise and bring that group closer together, because obviously it feels like at the minute being buffeted by a lot of adversity. So that's what it is. But yeah, those 3, just to clarify, Sargent, Lise Malou and Rupp, unavailable tonight for COVID-related reasons.
Just to pick up on what you said there, a couple of players in the squad who have shown symptoms or are showing symptoms but have tested negative but are still capable of playing tonight, just to clear that up.
Absolutely, yeah, on the bench. I won't name them, but on the bench. So obviously where we are at the minute is, symptoms can be the flu that you would associate with this time of year ultimately, but we're in a different world now. So, a cough and a cold, you have to take every precaution going, but clearly read into it that they wouldn't be anywhere near a matchday squad if they'd exhibited any COVID-related symptoms through testing, obviously, which is now increasingly vigorous. So that's where we are with those individuals. Yeah, maybe not quite 100% in terms of their fitness and how they feel in themselves, but you see the amount of development players on the bench tonight. It very much is needs must.
Yeah, worth reiterating as well. Interesting that Manchester United, who are obviously Saturday's opponents, have had their game called off tonight against Brentford because of COVID-related issues. Norwich City obviously haven't. Villa have a few of their own, to be fair. Both of the benches look fairly young and contain players that maybe haven't had a whole load of Premier League experience before this point. Maybe it shows where the Premier League is more broadly. Just to finish off then, Pad, on tonight's game, we mentioned about preparation. Given the sheer amount of effort that Norwich City put into Saturday's performance, how difficult is it going to be for those players, given what we've spoken about in terms of maybe just sheer depth not available, young lads having to step up? How possible is it going to be for them to step up and repeat what they did on Saturday against Manchester United, albeit hopefully with a different result tonight?
Well, certainly from Norwich's perspective, yeah, we hope that to be the case. I'm just looking again at Norwich's 11 on their team graphic, and in terms of the energy and the intensity, and yes, you're right, that is a question mark because they put so much in on Saturday night. But then I'm looking at Brandon Williams, and he didn't play, so he should be tip-top, 100% ready to go and put it all out there on the pitch. Gibson didn't play. He's clearly fit enough from a thigh issue, which is what ruled him out against Manchester United. So he's effectively had I'm trying to think, since Tottenham, basically, those 2 guys. So, you're getting on for 10 days since they kicked the ball. Sorensen, 70 minutes, okay, but he hasn't played a lot more Premier League football prior to that this season. So he should be very fit and fresh. And my lord, will he be keen to put down a marker in his correct position? So he certainly, you would think, would want to show what he's all about tonight. And even Cantwell, Cantwell coming back in again. It's not the season that he would have hoped for, surely, at this stage, in terms of the ups and downs and really needing to impress this manager. Got his opportunity in his first game against Southampton, didn't take it. Reasons for that, obviously, given the relative inactivity in the 2 months prior to. But we're now 4 or 5 games into Smith's reign. He's had another block of training, and he's getting another opportunity tonight. And Dean Smith said, didn't he, before United, that he was getting much closer to what's required. So, there's 4 players I've listed there who all really should be pretty fresh and pretty keen to make a good impression. So it was a concern, I've got to be honest, from me going into this game. Could they raise it again? But the fact that maybe through enforced measures in certain cases, but the fact he's made 3 or 4 changes there. That's got to bring an added freshness and maybe an added competitive edge to it, because it would have been very hard for the same group of players to go again. But we can say that's going to be the case, but let's see. I haven't really cast too much of an eye over the Villa team. They played at the weekend. I don't know how many changes Gerrard's gone down in terms of his 11-1. Dave tells me so. You would think, if anything, that should give Norwich the edge, but that's the theory. We get to see it in practice, but certainly, I don't think Dean Smith certainly won't be using that as an excuse tonight in terms of the amount of tank that got emptied against Manchester United on Saturday.
There we go then. Very, very interesting stuff indeed. Paddy, thank you very much. We'll have more, of course, on this game, which you can check out on our website and Thinken Plus app as well. Do go and subscribe if you haven't already. 60-day free trial, $1.99 thereafter. Available in all your app stores, phone, on tablet as well, and on desktop if you so wish. As Paddy said, we'll have all of the reaction from Dean Smith after the game in terms of obviously the COVID situation, but also the game as well. But let's hope the COVID issues don't get in the way of, first and foremost, an excellent game of football. But secondly, as Tim Krul and Norwich City's goalkeepers come out to warm up, a Norwich City win. Thank you all very much for watching, and we'll see you again very soon.